You agreed to $15 an hour. You shook hands, signed the paper, showed up on time. But here's what nobody told you at that table. By the time that money actually reaches your life, your real life, not the number on the contract, you're not making $15. You're making closer to $8, maybe less. I know that sounds wrong. I know you're sitting there doing the math right now. $15, 40 hours. That's $600 a week. You've seen the paychecks, you know the number. But that number is a lie, not the kind where someone stole from you. The quieter kind. The kind where a system is perfectly designed to take more than half of what you earn before you even blink. And the worst part? You agreed to it. Not because you're stupid, because nobody ever showed you the full picture. Today we're showing you the full picture. There are 4 things draining your time, your money, and your future. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how to stop it. Meet Jake. Jake is 27. He works at a logistics company outside Cincinnati. $15.50 an hour, full time. He's reliable, he's on time, and he genuinely thought this was the beginning of something. But here's Jake's Monday morning. His alarm goes off at 5:47. He's out of the house by 6:30. He commutes 35 minutes each way. He spends $9 on lunch because he didn't have time to prep. He gets home at 5:15, eats something quick, falls asleep on the couch by 9. He does this 5 days a week. On paper, Jake makes $25,000 a year before tax. In his hand, after federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare, and the $180 a month they pull for his health insurance, he's taking home around $18,900 a year. But it gets worse. When you account for the hours Jake actually loses to this job, the commute, the getting ready time, the mental wind down after a hard shift, he's not giving 40 hours a week. He's giving closer to 55. Do that math. $18,900 a year divided by 2,860 hours of actual life given up. That's $6.61 an hour, not $15, not even close. And here's what makes this personal. Jake isn't a rare case. Jake is the average. Jake might be you. The job isn't failing you. The system around the job is, and it has 4 names. The time cage, the tax leak, the invisible drain, and the one that actually changes everything, the exit ramp. Here's what we're going to walk through together. The time cage, the invisible hours your job steals that never show up on your contract. The tax leak, why the government takes a bigger cut from you than from people who earn the same amount a different way. The invisible drain, the hidden costs you pay just to keep working that nobody ever adds up for you. And the exit ramp, the one real move you can make this week to start pulling your actual hourly rate higher. No theory, no complicated finance. Just the truth, the numbers, and what to do. Let's go. When you sign a contract that says $15 an hour, you picture a fair deal. You work an hour, you get $15. Clean, simple, honest. But that deal was never real, because no employer buys just your working hours. They buy everything around those hours too. And they don't tell you that on the contract. Let's walk through Jake's week again, slowly this time. Jake starts work at 7:30. He arrives at 7:30, but to arrive at 7:30, he woke up at 5:47, showered, got dressed, skipped breakfast and drove 35 minutes. That's 1 hour 43 minutes before he earns a single dollar. He finishes at 4 p.m, but he doesn't flip a switch and become free at 4 p.m. He drives home, another 35 minutes. He gets home mentally drained. He needs an hour to decompress before he feels like himself again. He can't start any real personal project until 6 p.m. And by 8 p.m, he's already watching the clock because tomorrow starts again at 5:47. That's the time cage. Your job doesn't just take 8 hours, it takes the 90 minutes before, the 35 minutes after, the hour of mental recovery, the prep on Sunday night, the sick days you don't take because you can't afford to miss the shift. On paper, Jake works 40 hours a week. In reality, Jake gives 55 hours of life to this job every single week, and he gets paid for 40. Now let's meet Sophia. Sophia works a different job. She earns $18 an hour, so more than Jake. But Sophia works from home. Her commute is from her bed to her desk, 7 steps. She eats lunch from her own kitchen. She starts at 9 and by 5:05 she is completely off the clock. Her contract says 40 hours. She actually gives 41. Same industry, same skill level. But Sophia is earning $18 across 41 hours of real life. Jake is earning $15.50 across 55 hours. You do the math. Sophia's real rate is $17.56 an hour. Jake's is $11.09. The time cage isn't just about commute time, it's about every piece of your life that gets pulled into orbit around your job without showing up in your paycheck. The question you need to ask about any job is not just how much does it pay, the question is how many hours of my actual life does it cost? Okay, let's talk about the number that makes people uncomfortable. You already know taxes come out of your paycheck. That's not the surprise. The surprise is how the system is specifically designed to take more from you than from people who earn money differently. And this is not a political thing. This is just math. Numbers on paper. Stick with me. When Jake earns $15.50 an hour in wages, that income gets taxed at the full ordinary income rate. Federal tax, state tax, Social Security, Medicare. In most US states, someone earning around $25,000 a year ends up keeping about 75 to 78 cents of every dollar they earn after all deductions. So Jake earns $25,000 and keeps around $18,900. The rest goes to the government. Now here's the part nobody sits you down and explains. If Jake owned a small business and paid himself the same $25,000 through a different structure, or earned that $25,000 through long-term investments, the tax rate on some of that income could be significantly lower. Capital gains taxes, certain business deductions, self-employment strategies. There are legal ways the tax code is structured that favour certain types of income over wages. Joe, this isn't about rich people cheating. This is about the fact that the tax code was literally written with more flexibility built in for business income than for wages. Wage earners, people who trade time for money, face the least flexible tax treatment of anyone in the system. Every dollar gets captured. There are fewer legal ways to reduce what you owe. The tax leak isn't about someone stealing from you. It's about the fact that the system was not designed to protect the person selling their time. It was designed to protect the person who owns something. That's the difference between Jake and the person who owns the company Jake works for. And that difference shows up every single month on his paycheck. Now we need to add up the number nobody ever calculates. What does it actually cost Jake to go to work? He drives 35 minutes each way. That's roughly 18 miles round trip per day. The IRS mileage rate for 2026 is around 70 cents per mile. That's $12.60 per day just in vehicle cost. Fuel, wear, depreciation. Over 250 working days a year. $3,150 gone. Just to get there and back, lunch. Jake doesn't pack his lunch most days, $9 per day at the place near the warehouse. That's $45 a week, $2,250 a year. In food he buys specifically because he is at work and too tired to prepare anything. Work clothes. Jake needs boots. Specific clothing for the logistics floor. He replaces them roughly once a year. $180. The coffee he grabs twice a week because 5:47 AM is brutal. $6 a week. $312 a year. Total invisible drain. $5,892 a year. That's money Jake spends just to hold the job. It never shows up as a cost anywhere, it just quietly disappears. Now subtract that from his real take home. He took home $18,900 after tax, minus $5,892 in work related costs. That leaves $13,008 per year of money that is truly, actually his. Divide $13,008 by the 2,860 hours of real life he gave to the job. Jake's real hourly rate is $4.55. Not $15.50, not $8, $4.55. This is the invisible drain. It's the part of the picture that nobody draws for you when you're sitting across the desk in the interview, excited about the number on the offer letter. And to be clear, this is not Jake's fault. Jake is doing everything society told him to do. Show up, work hard, be reliable. It's just that nobody ever handed Jake a full accounting of what that actually costs. Now here's where something important shifts. Because most people, when they hear this, feel one of two things. They feel angry, or they feel hopeless. And both of those feelings make sense. But there is a third option, and that's the exit ramp. The exit ramp is not a fantasy. It's not quit your job tomorrow. It's not a side hustle that promises $10,000 a month on your phone. The exit ramp is a very specific, very boring, very real shift in how you think about your time. Here it is. The difference between Jake and someone who eventually breaks free from the time cage is not intelligence, it's not luck, it's not who their parents were, it's this. They started building income that does not require them to be physically present. Not overnight, not all at once, in small consistent moves that compound over time. Let's stay with Jake, but let's give him one change. Jake finds a skill he can offer online, it doesn't matter which one. Editing short videos, writing product descriptions, managing social media for small local businesses, a basic skill that has a market. He spends 45 minutes on Saturday mornings, not 5 hours, just 45 minutes, learning and starting to offer it. In month 1, he earns $0. That's normal. In month 3, he earns $80. That's not a salary, but it took him 0 commute time, 0 work boots, 0 5:47 AM alarms, and it was taxed differently than his wage income because it's self-employment income with deductions available. In month 6, he's at $300 a month. Working evenings he already had available because he stopped watching 4 hours of TV he wasn't really enjoying anyway. In month 12, he's at $700 a month. That's $700 a month from a skill he built on 45 minutes a week. Jake has created something the time cage cannot touch. He owns something now. Small, early, but his. And here's the psychological shift that happens that nobody talks about. Once Jake has income that doesn't require him to be at a location at 7:30 AM, his relationship with his job changes. The job is no longer a trap, it's funding the thing he's building. He stops dreading Monday morning the same way. Because he has an exit ramp now. He doesn't have to sprint down it today, but he knows it's there. That's what the exit ramp does. It doesn't fix everything overnight. It gives you direction, and direction changes everything about how the journey feels. Sophia from earlier figured this out too. She took the flexibility of her remote job, the 2 hours a day she saved on commute, and she used them. 18 months after Jake's story starts, she's earning $1,400 a month from a small digital product she built on her lunch breaks. She still has her job, but she's not trapped in it anymore. The exit ramp is not about escaping work. It's about building something that runs alongside your job until one day it's big enough that you have a real choice. That is the difference between people who stay in the time cage their whole career and people who eventually get out. Not a lottery win, not an inheritance, a decision made early to build a second lane. So let's be specific, because this video is not going to end with invest in yourself and send you off into the day with nothing actionable. Here is the one move, the real one. This week, not next month, not when things calm down, this week, I want you to calculate your real hourly rate. Take your annual income after tax, then subtract every cost you pay just to hold your job. Commute, gas, food near work, clothes, anything that exists only because you have that job. Subtract it all. Then count the real hours. Your contracted hours plus your commute, plus your getting ready time, plus an honest estimate of your mental wind down time each evening. Divide the first number by the second number. Write that number down somewhere, you will see it. That is your real hourly rate. And the gap between that number and $15, or whatever your contract says, is the gap you're working with. Most people who do this exercise feel one of two things. Either the gap is smaller than they expected, which means they are in a better situation than they thought and they should protect it. Or the gap is bigger than they expected, which means they now have a very clear reason to start building their exit ramp. Either outcome is useful. Either outcome gives you information. Knowledge of your real rate is the beginning of every real financial decision. You cannot improve a number you have never calculated. Do it this week. It takes 20 minutes. It will change how you see every work conversation, every job offer, every hour of your life. And if the number is bad, if it's worse than you thought, that's not the end of the story. That's the beginning of a different one. Nobody sat Jake down and told him the truth. Nobody showed him the full math. He was handed a number, told to be grateful, and trusted that the system was fair. It wasn't unfair out of malice. It was just never designed for him. It was designed for the person who owns the thing Jake works inside of. And here's the part that actually matters. Jake is not a failure. Jake is not stuck because of something wrong with him. Jake is stuck because he was never given the full picture. You are not stuck because of something wrong with you. You were handed a number and told it was the deal, but the real deal has always been bigger and messier and more complicated than that number. Now you've seen it. The time cage is real, the tax leak is real, the invisible drain is real, but so is the exit ramp. The question has never been whether you're smart enough or disciplined enough. The question is whether you're going to look at the full picture and then decide to do something about it. Here's your challenge for this week. Calculate your real hourly rate, the full version. Not the contract, the real one. Then drop it in the comments. Not the exact number, just the gap. How far is your real rate from your contract rate? What surprised you? I read every single comment on this channel. I respond to everyone. If this video changed how you think about your job and your time, subscribe right now. because next week we are talking about the $500 emergency that destroys everything you've worked for, and the dead simple thing that stops it from happening again. We'll see you there.